The Lord bless you and keep you. Have you ever been afraid to do what you knew was the right thing to do? Maybe your friends thought it wouldn't be cool, or maybe you were afraid of what other people would think. There are just a host of reasons that would come to your mind to not do something that you knew, this is the right thing to do. I'm just not sure I can do it. I'm not sure that I want to commit myself to this particular thing. I think that's what a lot of the people in first century Jerusalem, I think that's where they were. We'll see that in our next text as we're reading. If we remember, this is right after God struck down Ananias and Sapphira for lying to them about the amount of money that they had placed at the apostles' feet. And as we start our text in Acts 5 and verse 12, many signs and wonders were regularly done among the people by the hands of the apostles. And they were all together in Solomon's portico. None of the rest dared join them, but the people held them in high esteem. That's kind of what I'm talking about. Nobody else dared to join this particular group, the Way Christians. Nobody wanted to be a part of this group, but they knew that it was the right thing. They held them in high esteem. They knew that what they were practicing, that the behavior that they were exhibiting among the people, it was the right behavior. It was the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do to help those who are in need. It's the right thing to do if you have a lot and you know somebody doesn't have much. It's a nice thing. It's the right thing to do to help them, to teach them, to show them what it means to be a child of God. It's the right thing to do. But none of the people dared join them. Now the next verse seems like it's in contradiction. It says, and more than ever believers were added to the Lord, multitudes of both men and women. None of the people dared join them, but more than ever, people were added. So there were people out there that knew what the right thing was, and they said, I need to do this. I need to put the past behind me. I need to let go of who I used to be, and I need to become who God wants me to be. It's the right thing to do, and I need to do it. So there were people in both situations. Some folks, I know it's right, but I'm not going to do it. I want to keep my old life. I don't want to be out of the cool crowd anymore. Or kicked out of the synagogue, as the case may be in the first century. In John chapter 8, 9, and 10, Jesus heals a man that was blind, and he's ends up being kicked out of the synagogue because Jesus healed him. So even though it wasn't cool, he knew what the right thing to do was. Let's pick up in verse 15. So that they even carried out the sick into the streets and laid them on cots and mats, that as Peter came by, at least his shadow might fall upon some. The people also gathered from the towns around Jerusalem, bringing the sick and those affected by unclean spirits, and they were all healed. Could you imagine that? Peter walking by and his shadow falls upon somebody who's sick in the streets and they're healed. Could you imagine the effect that this has on the people of Jerusalem? The Israelites that were there, who were having to make a decision. Who am I going to follow? Am I going to follow the Sadducees, the Pharisees, the Sanhedrin? Am I going to follow all of the things that the law of Moses put down for me? Even though I know that the right thing is to follow the Messiah, to follow after Jesus, to follow after his apostles and his disciples who are imitating, who are replicating the way. I think we can bring that question right into this 21st century, can't we? There's a lot of people out there that know this is the way. This is the right way to go. And yet they choose not to follow. Now, I know that there are all kinds of people in all walks of life. And I know even though there are some people who claim to be Christians, they don't exhibit that behavior. I understand that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the decision to do what is right versus the decision to stay where you are. That's your decision, and it's not made by anybody else. Now, I'm sure other people's behavior might have an input, but ultimately, the decision has to be yours. Do I follow after Jesus, who is the way, who is the Messiah? Or do I follow after my own selfish desires and pleasures? I don't want any of us to be like this first group in verse 13 of chapter 5. I don't want any of us to be those kind of people that hold Christians in high esteem, but yet we don't want to be part of them. I would rather be like verse 14. More than ever, believers were added to the Lord's body, both men and women. Multitudes, it says, multiplication. In the very beginning in Acts chapter 2, the Lord adds to the body, and he adds 3,000. And then again, we read he adds about 5,000 more, and now we're multiplying. We have multitudes of people who are added to the body because they know that Jesus is the one, the long-awaited Messiah, the one who provides the sacrifice that satisfies God's wrath. And they have no problem setting aside their old selves and becoming something new. We have to be those kind of people. We have to be the kinds that set aside who we used to be and become who God wants us to be. The Lord bless you and keep you.